tracing his path from a small apartment all the way to becoming one of the wealthiest people on the planet. We hear these stories of massive wealth and global influence all the time. But today, we're actually going to break down the blueprint. We're going to look past all those billions and really examine the exact mindset that turned his initial big dreams into an undeniable reality.
So I have to ask, is there really any such thing as an overnight success? It's so easy to look at billionaires and just assume it was instant, right? We see the shiny end result and figure, well, they must have just gotten lucky, or maybe they found some magical shortcut. But I want to let you in on something crucial before we go any further. The real secret we'll uncover today, it's not money. It's not luck. It is a psychological trait that you already possess. It's a choice you can start making the second this explainer ends.
Section 1. The Overnight Success Myth.
You see, the massive Ambani empire we know today definitely didn't start in some fancy corporate boardroom. It began with immense sacrifice and incredibly humble roots. Mukesh's father, Dhirubhai Ambani, built a business entirely from scratch with very, very little money. And growing up in that simple environment, Mukesh learned early on that success isn't about luck. It's about showing up every single day, especially when absolutely nobody is watching. He watched his family live a simple life that was deeply rooted in hard work, discipline, and sacrifice. And those weren't just buzzwords for them. That was their daily reality. It ingrained in him this foundational belief that if you want to build something monumental, you've got to be willing to do the quiet, unglamorous work first.
Moving right along to Section 2, Creating Your Own Opportunities.
Because at a certain point, all that foundational hard work has to meet a decisive moment of action. Here's where it gets really interesting. Mukesh was actually on a super comfortable path. He had a strong interest in science, which led him to study chemical engineering, and then he moved to the United States for higher education. His future looked completely secure. It was perfectly laid out. But then he gets this life-changing call from his father, asking him to return to India to help expand the family business.
Suddenly, he's staring down a massive decision. Does he continue his secure studies for comfort and predictability, or does he return to India and take on this immense responsibility? Well, he chose responsibility, and by making that choice, he proved that highly successful people create their own opportunities, instead of just waiting around for the perfect ones to fall into their laps. He literally stepped away from a guaranteed path to help build something much, much larger than himself.
And let me tell you, once he made that choice, there were absolutely no overnight miracles. None. Mukesh Ambani deeply understood that building something meaningful requires sacrifice. He spent years learning every single minute detail of the business. He didn't just parachute in at the top and coast. He got right into the weeds and completely avoided the temptation to chase any shortcuts. The reality of his choice meant long, grueling, continuous days. The kind of behind-the-scenes grind that the public never, ever sees. It meant showing up every day, even long after the initial excitement of his big decision had completely worn off.
We're talking endless sleepless nights and some incredibly difficult decisions. The pressure to expand a business like that is just immense, yet he stayed completely focused. When you're building a legacy, the tough decisions don't magically stop. They only compound. But his early lessons in discipline, they kept his attention totally locked on the ultimate goal.
Which brings us to Section 3, the power of long-term vision.
Because, look, hard work alone simply isn't enough if you don't actually know where you're going. Ambani's unique advantage was his ability to think miles ahead of everyone else in the room. While his competitors were focused entirely on today's survival and immediate returns, Ambani was busy architecting the next 10 years. He saw super early on that digital technology was going to radically shape India. He wasn't just playing the game for tomorrow's profit, he was masterminding a decade-long transformation into a telecom giant.
And naturally, a massive vision brings massive criticism. When he started making these gigantic investments in digital infrastructure, the critics were loud. They claimed the risks were way too high and that his plans were completely impossible. They were just looking at the present reality and literally couldn't comprehend his vision for the future. But he leaned into this incredible principle. Never let other people's doubts become your limitations. Think about that for a second. Every single great achievement in human history probably looked entirely impossible to the masses at first. Today, millions of people use the digital services his vision created, all because he was willing to believe in the future before anyone else did. He just flat out refused to let the small thinking of others shrink his massive goals.
And that leads us perfectly into Section 4, Discipline over Motivation.
This is where the rubber meets the road for you and me. Because ultimately, this isn't just a story about global business. It's a story about human psychology. Why is it that so many incredibly talented people just flat out fail while seemingly average people succeed? We see it all the time, right? People with natural gifts who can't seem to make it work, and then folks with average abilities who soar right past them. What is the actual difference?
Well, the answer we found in the source material is simple, but honestly, it's pretty devastating. They just quit too soon. It's not a lack of resources, it's not a lack of intelligence, it is simply a lack of endurance.
I mean, we've all been there. You try learning a new language and quit after a week. You get one harsh interview rejection and want to throw in the towel on the whole job hunt. Or maybe you drop a great new habit the second you realize you aren't getting instant results. We are so naturally wired to want immediate gratification. And the moment things get tough, that temptation to quit just takes over.
There's a quote from his journey that hits the nail right on the head, and you should probably write this one down. Success does not reward people who start. Success rewards people who continue. Starting is the easy part. Anybody can start when the excitement is high. But continuing, pushing through that messy middle phase, where it's boring, difficult, and unrewarding, that is where success is actually forged.
And guys, this is exactly why discipline will win over motivation every single time. Motivation is just a feeling. It's fleeting, it's totally unreliable, and it vanishes the second life feels unfair or you're just tired. But discipline is a system. It keeps you moving forward regardless of how you feel in that exact moment.
And hey, please remember this. Literally everyone experiences self-doubt. Every single successful person you look up to has had days of deep uncertainty where they questioned their own abilities. The defining difference isn't that they're fearless. It's that they simply kept going while feeling that fear. Mukesh Ambani offers this super valuable piece of advice for whenever we feel like we're falling behind. Do not compare your beginning with someone else's destination. It's incredibly easy to look at someone's absolute peak and compare it to your starting point. But those highly successful people you admire today, they once struggled with the exact same uncertainty that you might be feeling right now.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative question. Next time you hit a massive roadblock, and trust me, you will face one, will you just sit there waiting for motivation to magically strike, or will you use discipline to push through? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks for learning with me today, and keep moving forward.